Hello, hope this video finds you well. Today we're going to look at problem 1 from the 2017, which is called quadrant selection. And the problem description is, a common problem in mathematics is to determine which quadrant a given point lies in. There are 4 quadrants numbered 1 to 4. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, as shown below. For example, the point A, which is at coordinates 12, 5, lies in quadrant 1, since both x and y values are positive, and point B in quadrant 2, since this x value is negative and this y value is positive. Your job is to take a point and determine the quadrant it is in. You can assume that neither of the two coordinates will be 0. That's really important here because if it's sitting on either the x or y axis, it means something different. So our input specification is the first line. Input contains integers x between negative 1,000 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1,000. X is not equal to 0. The second line of input contains the integer y, where negative 1,000 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 1,000. Y is not equal to 0. And our output specification is 1, 2, 3, or 4, indicating the quadrant. And we can see here if we have 12, 5, output quadrant 1, 9, negative 13, output quadrant 4. You can see 9 would be a positive x, negative y, puts us in quadrant 4. Okay, let's dive in. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a function here. You don't have to do this. This is a little overkill for this problem, but again, I like to do this because it develops good habits and gives us an opportunity to understand how functions work. And I'm going to say x, I'm going to take my input, so x is equal to int input. So again, I know my inputs are integers, so I'm going to take the input, and Python 3 takes all inputs as strings, and I'm going to cast it to an int. Y is equal to int input, and we're going to cast that again. So what I have is 4 situations here. I have situation 1 is if x and y are both positive. So I'm going to say if x is greater than 0 and y is greater than 0. Because if both x and y are positive, that means we're in quadrant 1, because this is positive x, positive y. So if that's the case, we are going to return 1. Elif, our second for quadrant 2, x is going to be less than 0 because x is going to be negative, and y is going to be greater than 0 because y is positive. In that case, we're going to return a 2. Elif, for quadrant 3, x is still going to be less than 0 because quadrant 3 is down here in the bottom left-hand part. So x is negative and y is negative. So we're going to say x is less than 0 and y is less than 0. And we're going to return 3. Elif, x is greater than 0 because that's quadrant 4, and y is less than 0, and we're going to return a 4. And now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to say the result is equal to problem 0. So what's going to happen here is we're going to invoke the function problem, which will pretty much run this problem for us, and it will spit out the result. And because on the CCC, the program that tests it looks for a printout, we're going to print result. So we're going to test this, and then I'm going to show you a couple things that I would do to clean this up a little bit from a function perspective. All right, so let's come in here. So we're going to hit ls. There are all my files. We're going to say Python 3, and we are doing CCC 2017 J1. And if I put in, say, 1, 3, which is in the quadrant 1, I get a 1. Let's run it again. Let's put in negative 50, positive 7, quadrant 2. Let's do another one. Let's put negative 64, negative 2, that's quadrant 3. And the last one, let's put positive x of 35 and say negative 100y. There you go. So all my test cases work. And so this is a valid answer. Now, at this point we could stop, but I want to kind of highlight a couple really important ideas around functions here. So the first thing to say is that if for some reason you were working in Java, this would not work. And the reason why it wouldn't work is because in Java, you have to specify the return type. So I would have to state that is going to return an integer, which we see here. And so what Java would say is like, wait a second, if this is not true, and this is not true, and this is not true, and this is not true, we have no return statement here. So with Python, it's far more forgiving. So in this case, what I would probably do to clean this up a little bit is I would actually take this elif and I would just get rid of it altogether and have this catch-all return statement. Because we know that if this statement is false, and this statement is false, and this statement is false, we know we must be in quadrant 4. And it's a little more efficient. It's one less thing we have to check, and therefore we return 4. And if I save this and give it a test, and we do, like, let's do a quadrant 4 situation, so positive x and a negative y, it still works perfectly fine. This is one thing, if you are working in Python and you move to Java, to be really aware of, and I encourage you to try it, is that Java requires, requires you to state the return type in a function. Python doesn't. So Python, whether your function reaches a return statement or not, it doesn't matter. You just have to kind of deal with it. But in Java, it actually won't run if you state there's a return value and you don't actually return something. All right, with that, I hope this video helped, and have a wonderful day.